Will. This is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about your mechanics and kind of talk a little bit about, what it does to, or what it takes to kind of get consistent and utilize your body. Pitching's all about utilizing your lower half. We got to make sure we're staying back, we're using those legs, we're not rushing, and we just got to make sure that we're starting in a position to get ourselves in the right position for that. So if we're not starting in the right position, it's going to be hard to get ourselves utilizing that lower half as efficiently as we can. So the biggest thing right off the bat for you, all right, you're doing a lot of things good right here, all right. Eyes are on the target, all right, everything's good. A lot of times you'll see kids kind of look down at the ground and then don't pick the target up after a while. So your eyes are locked in, your eyes are locked in there, everything's looking nice and solid, all right. So through this delivery, the biggest thing for you, which is going to, especially when you get older and you get a lot stronger, what we need to see happen, I'm going to draw a line right here, is you're going to watch that as this leg starts coming up, you can see how your body's already starting forward, and you can see that your hand is break. That ball comes out of that glove as that leg's still coming up. So we've got a little bit of timing issue. On all this does is that's going to make your delivery inconsistent. It's going to lose the power in your lower half. And so we need to get to a point where we are getting a little bit more consistent. So to get to that point, all right, for guys that have that move the hand over the head or up to the head, all right, we got to make sure that those hands are going over that head as we step back, and they're coming forward as that leg starts to come forward. So at this point, right here, you need to have your hands either, above your head or at the highest point. You can see that they keep going up as that leg comes forward. So once that leg starts coming forward, this glove needs to start coming back down, and it needs to get back somewhere in this position. All right. Once we get that going, so all you got to do is just move those hands closer. Now we got to make sure that we're loading up on the backside part of this leg. We got to make sure we're loading up on the inside part of that foot, so we don't all of a sudden start going forward. We need to make sure that in this position here, we're just shifted back from here to back over your leg. So we're still over that backside. We don't want any movement forward. It could be a little bit, but we don't want the majority of our movement forward until we've gotten to the peak of our leg lift and until after our hands have broke. So you're breaking your hands before that leg's starting to come down. So we want to make sure that the leg comes down, the hips are going forward, and then the hands break before we get going. So you're just breaking your hands early, you're starting your hips early, and all that's going to do is you're going to see that you're going to start seeing this foot lead your hips down the mound, all right? We want to see these hips out in front. So because everything's early and rotating, at this position, we'd want to try to see, that leg still behind those hips driving down the mound, and we're staying in those legs a lot longer, now in this position, now the leg might be here somewhere, now starting to turn over, but you're seeing that all you're doing is you're popping open that early, and then you're just kind of seeing yourself fall in that front foot, and we're not striding out down the mound. If you're to take your foot and mark off, 5 to 6 shoe lengths, one over the other, that's generally where we should be aiming. It looks like you can get a lot farther down just using those legs, driving those hips closed, and just driving as far down the mound as you can. That's going to get you getting a lot more power as you get older and get stronger. All right. So that foot strike. So once that front foot hits the ground, which is right here, we'll call it right here. All right. You should draw a line from your back foot straight towards that catcher, and we want to try to be landing somewhere around that line. It looks like you're open. It's kind of tough to see from this angle. And again, mark off your foot, your 5 or 6 feet lengths, and then mark that off wherever that would be, and work on getting those legs out there to reach that spot. Work on keeping those hips closed to get out there, because your back hips are already starting to work pretty good. Now it's just a matter of not cutting yourself off and reaching out a little bit farther. All right. Upper body wise, we're at a good spot here. We're not leaning back too far. We're not out over that front foot. But what we're doing is, because our hands broke so early, is you can see that we're in a spot where our ball has already started too soon up. So we're up here, the ball's at its height, and then you can see here at your foot strike, it's just right up top. All right, and this front side's popped open early, and so it's just kind of lagging up there. It's not getting a good path where it's just moving all in the one direction. It's coming up here and just kind of lagging up here, and then you're seeing how at this point your weight is going to shift down over your front side early. So you're going to watch yourself coming here. Now you're supposed to start seeing you skid through your hips. Now you're supposed to use those hips, but you're going to see that it's your shoulders that do the work. So you're seeing how your hips aren't moving at all. So we'll draw two boxes. All right, you're going to see this upper body starting to deliver. You see that shoulder going, hip hasn't turned yet. Shoulders going, hip hasn't turned, hip hasn't turned. Now that hip turns over. So you're really, really late with that lower body. We want the hips to go first. So we want to see this knee pop down to the ground. We want to see this back foot come up off the ground. We want to start seeing this hips turn first, and then that shoulder comes through. So we want to try to get our hips in this position with that upper body, back here in that position we kind of drew back there. So now we're here, that upper body isn't turned, but we're staying farther back. And that's a big strength thing, at your age especially. It's something that will come with strength, but you can focus on it now and work on it to get yourself in a spot where you're using your legs. You're just not using your hips. You're not using any torque. You're not using that rotational power. You just got to try to get to a point where, boom, these hips are starting to go forward, and then that upper body comes through. All right. So that's all. That's the biggest thing for you is there's a few key things where you're setting up, but it's just a matter of keeping these hips closed longer and driving them farther down the mound. And also too here, when you get older, hitters are going to be able to start picking up your grips in this position. That's just a small thing, but we just want hips closed farther down. All right, we want them to lead. In this position, that foot still hasn't popped past that hip yet. All right, and then once we land farther around here, that's going to make it easier to use our hips. That's going to make it easier for the hips to start turning towards the plate before that upper body, instead of upper body turn first and then the hips. All right, as you get older and stronger, that's going to cause some injury problems, but you're just not going to be able to maximize your velocity. So you can see, just because you're short with your legs, you're going to start seeing the heel come up off the ground, and as you're throwing, and that's just not a very athletic position. It's not the most powerful position. You can see how everything's up on that tiptoe, and then you're just going to kind of fall forward over it. And then you just want to make sure that you're posting up and sticking that front side a little bit, that front leg a little bit better, and just control you a little bit more. So again, a lot of this is strength related. A lot of this will come as you get older, but just work on drills. Work on drills where you got your ball up, your glove out, and you're rotating those hips first instead of that upper body. Just work on that lower half. Get your feet out to foot strike, kind of recreate that foot strike position, and then just work on turning your hips first. And maybe it's a flexibility issue for you. Work on that torso flexibility. But it's something that'll come with age. So hope you're having a great time playing this summer. Thanks for making it out to camp, and we look forward to seeing you at ABC.